Hey guys, Rexasaur here, and I think we need a conversation about DLC because I've seen a lot of backlash over Total War Warhammer's announcement that Day 1 DLC is happening. I think I need to bring this up because I'm an advocate of Total War Warhammer. I adore it. It's going to be the best game ever made, in my opinion. That is an opinion on someone who's seen everything, and an opinion that I've made through seeing everything that they put out, that they've shown, and things. And I've made that opinion myself. I haven't even played the game. I haven't even touched it. I never went to EGX or whatever to play the dwarf thingy. But from what I've seen, I'm going to say that it's going to be a great game. DLC. People are going apeshit. They're not going as apeshit as in other places. But I think this really requires someone to explain it to all of you guys why DLC is a thing and why DLC for Total War isn't cash grabbing bastards. They're not giving us this in the base game, the bastards. Creating a video game is expensive. It's not nothing, especially on such a large scale as Total War. They're creating a hell of a lot of different units, which require lots of different models, which just require lots of different skeletons. They have varying sizes, which is something that they've not done probably ever, in terms of like how much variation there's going to be in the game. The most variation we've seen probably is going to be things like Rome 2, where you have your standard size man, your elephant, your war engine, your war dog. And that's it. That is skeleton difference final, and then you got your horses as well. Sorry. In this, you're going to have your orcs, you're going to have your undead skeletons, you're going to have your humans, you're going to have your chaos warriors, you're going to have your giants, you're going to have your trolls, you're going to have your spiders, you're going to have your goblins, you're going to have your war engines, you're going to have your flying engines, you're going to have your dragons, there is so many different skeletons. It's going to cost them a lot of money. How are they going to make that money? Well, one of them is by selling the game slightly higher price than the other games. This just have to happen. This costing them so much to make that they're going to have to, get it back. Oh, well, sorry guys, this game is going to cost you £10 more than, the previous titles, which were about £30-40. Now it's going to be 50. Sorry. Yeah, I'm alright with that. Day 1 DLC. Chaos. Why do you think we have to, pay for this faction? Because once again, they have to make completely new skeletons. Dragon ogres? This is like a unique skeleton in itself. It's like half dragon, half man. The beastmen, which will eventually arrive, they're completely different. They're like slightly higher skeletons with goat legs kind of thing. This is just a general gist of how games are made. They're made, especially in unit base, when you've got models of people. If you've got a lot of models, you're going to have to make a lot of skeletons. You have to make one skeleton for all of them, and they're all going to be different. They all have different shaders, all different models. They're all varying in some way or other. The further away we get from like the old Total War games, with every new generation, there's more variation in the units. Every man looks slightly different than the next. In Total War Rome 2, I think there were like maybe 6 or 8 variations of a man in a unit. So every 8 person would be the same as the last 8, so it would be different, same, whatever. In Attila, this moved up a notch, and quite a few of them were different. You had women in some of the skirmisher units, and then you had the men as well in the same unit. A lot of variation. This is all paid for by us, obviously, in form of DLC. This is not something that they're doing because they're bastards and they want a lot of money. It's things that they're doing so that they can allow themselves to be able to make this amount of difference. Total War Warhammer is going to cost a lot of money for the consumer. This is not a lie. This is most likely going to be a thing. They're going to have to pay a lot. There's going to be 3 games of it because they cannot put the whole of the old world in one game, flat out £50. They cannot do that. They cannot afford. There will be a massive loss because there are so many different models. There are so many different textures, there are so many different variations. They want to do so much with the game that they cannot justify the cost of doing it in one big game. They have to split it into 3. They have to split it into DLC. DLC isn't bad. DLC allows the developer to put more into the game than they would necessarily be able to in the past. When we look at Rome Total War, which I think is the best Total War game to date, Rome Total War had barely any variation in units, had barely any variation in skeletons, had barely any polygons on the skeletons for that matter. Why do you think it cost so little? Because they didn't add anything to it. It was large, it had some variation, but for what it was, graphically wasn't that impressive. And variation wise, a lot of the units are exactly the same. When you look at any of the barbarian units, they've all got the same kind of units. They've all have barbarian warband, their spear warband, they've all got their swordsmen, their chosens. They're all exactly the same. And all of those have exactly the same skeletons as, say, the Egyptian Pharaoh's Guard, for example. The phalanx dudes were all the same. They were all exactly the same. They all worked the same, had the same animations. With the coming of time, things are getting more complicated, which means they're going to cost slightly more for the developer. And the more they cost for the developer, well, they're going to have to shed the cost somehow. And that's by increasing either the price of the base game, which they've done, not to a huge amount. £50 is still reasonable. Assassin's Creed Syndicate is £50, for example. But also via DLC. Just be happy, guys, that this DLC is not even that pricey, and they're giving us Chaos for free if we pre-order. Like, okay, I don't advocate pre-order, but we're getting DLC for free if we want it. We don't have to pay for this one. They're totally going pre-order. I mean, pre-ordering is obviously a massive risk, but if you don't want to pay for it, you don't have to, technically. Of course, you have to take the risk, but if you're going to get the game anyway, then what's the point? You might as well pre-order. I'm not advocating that you should buy the game. I'm going to wait until April, about 3 days before launch, to actually make my mind up to see if there's anything that fucks up along the way. And I would recommend you all do that. I recommend you don't pre-order it yet. You wait. Maybe they'll add some more bonuses. Maybe they'll, if no one pre-orders, they'll have to add bonuses. They'll have to do something, because pre-ordering is a thing now. But wait until a week maybe before pre-orders, just to make sure if something goes wrong that you're not fucked. What's the other thing I was going to do? But yes, another very important thing is that DLC is not money hoarding. It's allowing them to make the game you want. It's not something that's just terrible. It's something really, really good, in my opinion. I think that this Chaos DLC is great because it means that they're going to make loads of different things. They have announced that there's going to be free DLC. They're going to announce free updates to the game in terms of Legendary Lords, which have their own animations, their own, once again, skeleton, their own textures, their own voice, whatever. All this is great. I remember the point I was going to make. Be grateful, right, that unlike other developers, who I will not name, they're not selling maps or custom custom weapons or heraldry. In Total War Shogun 2, for example, where they just said yes, have this faction, that was kind of really iffy because every single one of those races pretty much were the same. They were exactly the same except coloured slightly more purple or blue or whatever. That was iffy. This is totally fine. There is absolutely no reason to go apeshit over the fact that they're selling Chaos. There just isn't. These guys are they're there for a reason. The DLC's there for a reason. I cannot just stress this enough that this is not bad DLC. And you guys should be happy the fact that they're being able to create this content. Because it's just pissing me off seeing the amount of comments saying, oh, DLC horse, bro. I'm just going to finish off by telling you about Crusader Kings 2, which is a game I play a lot. It's a game I adore. I have spent about £100-120 on the game, and that's a lot of money. But every single bit of that money goes towards the DLC. You get the base game, which is what they made. Then they make the first DLC. They probably planned 1 or 2 DLC. They were like, yeah, we'll add this. And every single time a DLC is bought by a load of people, that gives them the funding to do the next one. Crusader Kings 2 is at a point now in development somewhere they had no idea they were going to do, because they didn't realize we would enjoy the game as much, didn't realize that they could do as much as they did. How did we get India? Well, because we bought the first few DLCs. The money allows them to boost the game. It's going to be the same for Total War. Being able to create more and more factions, do more and more with the games because of the small extra purchases in terms of having to be able to make these factions, being able to increase the map size, because they need the funding and they need to do it somehow, and DLC is just the best way to do it, instead of going, this game is going to cost you £150 straight out, or you can't buy it because otherwise we can't make enough money to make it. Splitting it into smaller chunks is just how it's going to have to be. And the reason that it's so consumer, it's like the consumer has seen this as an evil thing, is because, oh, you've broken apart of the games. But it's because games are way more expensive to make now than they were before, because there's just so much more in the games than there used to be. And people keep saying, well, if they weren't splitting it out, there would be more. No, it's just, it's just how it is. And I'm not saying that it's a great practice, but I'm saying that it's a necessary practice in certain cases. Total War being one of the number one reasons. Crusader Kings 2, one of the number one reasons. I totally don't advocate multiplayer only games and then DLC whoring the clothing or whatever. That's like not cool. I'm not saying that's okay. If Total War Warhammer makes a DLC which is like, oh yeah, reskin your orcs, fuck that. Give me ogres, give me wood elves, give me Skaven as DLC. Don't give me a reskin orc. But I doubt highly they're going to do that. They'll probably give you your extra legendary heroes. They'll probably give you extra races. They'll probably even give you extra campaign area in the form of the next game, with those races attached to it. But yeah, so that's what I wanted to say. I'm sorry for this is quite a long video, quite a talky down video, but I really need to clear the air because so many of the comments are just making me want to punch everyone, because it's like they're just they don't think. People, you have to think. You have to think, why is this a thing now? In Total War, DLC is not a bad thing. It's a thing that allows them to make the game. If they don't do the DLC, they make a shitty game, or they make a game that literally has nothing in it. We'll end up with Total War Spain and literally just have Spain on its own. Like, that might be interesting, but not for a full Total War release. So that's all I have to say. Thank you very much for watching, guys. Hope you understand. Hope you don't take too much offense in the way I've been talking, but I just really wanted to make sure that it's grinded down in your heads that DLC for Total War is not a bad thing. Thank you very much for watching, and goodbye.